Hello and welcome to this online yoga class. Now, this is a certain type of yoga. It's not too energetic. In fact, some of us describe it as just kind of rolling around on the floor, doing a few stretches. Now, it's based on yin yoga and somatic yoga. And I like to think of it as something that's really relaxing, which is why we're putting it out in the evening at 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening. So set you up for your week ahead. Hopefully you'll get nice and relaxed and have a little chill out, do a few stretches, get ready for bed, maybe read a book or something afterwards, have a cup of herbal tea or hot water or something, and have a good night's sleep, because that's what we're all after, isn't it? Now, we like to call this pyjama yoga because that just shows us that we don't have to wear anything special to do yoga in, especially this type of yoga. And for me, I like to have my evening shower and then get all ready and snuggly for bed and just do a few stretches, get myself in the right kind of frame of mind to have a good night's sleep. So hopefully you'll join me and you'll also have a great night's sleep. Now, this yoga, if you've not done it before, you need to really pay attention to how you're feeling all the way through. There isn't a correct look about it. It's just something that will work for you. So I'm going to try and encourage you to tune into how you're feeling this evening and take you a little journey through your body to kind of check in with various parts of our body to make sure that we know how we feel and maybe a kind of before and after. So when we check in at the very end, we can see if we feel the same or if we feel different in any kind of way. Hopefully a bit more relaxed. So we don't need anything special for this type of yoga. I've got a yoga mat here, but you don't need one. You can just lie on the floor. If you've got heated floor, even better. I know, I mean, we've had some nice spring weather the last few days, but sometimes it's quite chilly. So I've got my extra heating on in here to keep me warm while I'm doing this, because it's quite a static type of yoga and we don't want to get too cold. Just do everything to your level. So as I say, I'm not looking at you, and you don't really need to be looking at me. You just need to be listening in and interpreting what I'm saying in some kind of way that makes sense for you. I'm going to do it with you. So hopefully if you're kind of a bit confused by what I'm saying, although they're very simple instructions, if you're a bit confused, you can have a quick glance at the screen and see if you're doing what you think is the right thing for you. We've got a bit of background music on, just so you know that it's still recording, because it's very static and you might look up and think, has she gone to sleep or not? Indeed, is it still running? So hopefully you'll hear a little bit of sound, and even when I'm being quiet. I suggest, if this is your first time, just lie down, close your eyes and join in as much as you want. And if you fall asleep, that's not a problem. You'll wake up at some point. So let's get going. We'll start off by lying on our back, and we just need to find a comfortable place to lie down. Now, I've got a little cushion here. It's quite nice to place underneath your head. And it's not necessary for everybody, but if you feel you're somebody whose chin tends to go up towards the ceiling because it's hard to keep the back of your neck long, then by all means use a pillow. If you've got cushions and you want to have a pillow or two under your legs, sort of closer to the knees, then you can do that. You can keep the legs bent, or you can straighten them out completely along the floor. The important thing is to lie somewhere that's comfortable for you. So We'll start by just closing our eyes. And it takes a while sometimes to tune in with how we're feeling. So we have to take the time to make sure that we are fully relaxed. So maybe we need to shuffle around a little bit. Maybe we adjust our shoulders or our feet. Maybe a little rock through the hips. The hands can just be somewhere that's comfortable for you. I like to have them with the palms facing up, but that's not comfortable for everybody. So if you prefer palms down or palms in, then you can, in towards the body, then you can do that. Oh, and that's the dog wanting to come and join us. Sadly, there's not enough room for us and for him. So we allow the breath to be nice and easy to begin with. So we're not really thinking about doing anything with it at all. We're just starting to notice it. We're just starting to notice how our body feels. So sometimes as we scan through the body, it helps to move it a little bit as I talk about the different parts of your body, so you can tune in properly. And we'll start to pay a bit more attention to the breath as we go on. But if you're comfortable with your mouth closed and breathing in and out through the nose, then we'll do that. Just allows us to slow the breath down a little bit. And we'll give our toes a little wiggle. Start to notice how they're feeling today. Maybe noticing the space between the toes, as well as the individual toes, and quite often we're aware of our big toes, sometimes our little toes, but those 3 toes in the middle often get a little neglected. So we're going to see if we can pay attention to them and notice how they're feeling today. Feel that connection through the back of the toes into the balls of the feet, all the way to the heels of the feet. So the heels of the feet are making contact with the floor. Maybe if your legs are bent, you've got the whole of the sole of your feet into the floor. Or if the legs are straight, just the heels. And wherever the position of your feet are, you're just going to notice which sort of direction they point in. So quite often they'll just roll out a little. But sometimes we prefer them more straight up. Even when they're bent, we may notice that one foot is turned out a little more than the other. And that's just you, that's just the way that you like to comfortably lie. And there's no right or wrong place to lie or shape to make. It's just good to know how it actually feels and that you're aware of where your body is within the space that you're taking up. We're going to start to notice how it feels through the back of the legs. So particularly those calf muscles, up through the back of the knees, and then up through the back of the thighs. And as we start to be aware of these different parts of our body, maybe we notice that we're holding on, maybe there's a little tension there. And we can use our breath to see if we can encourage some relaxation. So maybe allowing yourself to take a little bit longer over your breathing in and your breathing out. And then notice how it feels through the front of your legs, particularly through the outside of the shins and into the front of the knees. Now for some of us we've got a few knee problems, and maybe one knee is making itself more aware in your body than the other. Just noticing what that is for you and starting to feel that connection through the knees, between the lower legs and through the front of the thighs. And maybe you can allow your legs to let go a little. As we breathe in through the nose, if that's comfortable for us, see if we can use our out breath to let go of any of that tension that we've noticed. If we're aware of it. If we're not aware of it, then that's absolutely fine, of course. But we start to notice how that feels up through the back of the legs into our sitting bones and into our glute muscles, those muscles in the bum. And quite often these muscles are holding on tight, so they don't need to do anything right now. So you can let go. Breathing in, breathing out. And starting to notice how it feels up through the front of the thighs, particularly these hip crease here, the hip flexors. And maybe we can feel that connection or that holding through the front of the thighs, from the knees, maybe even up through from the feet, right up to those hip creases, those hip flexors into the lower belly. Breathing in and breathing out, and as we breathe in and out, maybe we could feel that movement in our lower belly. Sometimes it helps to place our hands there. Sometimes it moves freely, but for a lot of us, we're very conscious of our belly and we like to hold it in, or try to hold it in. But we're really going to see if we can allow that belly to expand as much as possible as you breathe in. So it's not just the lower belly, it's through the front of the waist, all the way up to the top of the belly, above, just below the ribs. And as we breathe in, bringing that space, more space into our body, maybe we can use our breath out to let go of some of that tension that we might be aware of or might become aware of. Starting to notice how the sides of the body might expand outwards as we breathe in. Really thinking about letting go through the lower back, through those muscles in the bums, those glute muscles. Feeling how that connects into the lower back, to the back of the waist. Just tuning in, really. Checking in with how we're feeling. Breathing in, maybe taking a little longer to breathe in. Maybe taking a little longer to breathe out. And maybe we can be aware of our rib cage. Maybe we notice how it moves as we breathe in and out. Checking that we're not holding it tight anywhere. So ideally, the ribs move away from each other as we breathe in. The chest expands up and out to the sides. Maybe we feel a little pressure down to the floor as we breathe in. As it expands through the back of the body. Maybe feeling some movement in those shoulder blades all the way into the tops of the arms. And think about letting go fully through the arms, the upper arms, the elbows heavy to the floor, even if the hands are on the belly still. The elbows can still be heavy down to the floor. Maybe your hands are still by the side. And noticing how it feels through our forearms and into our wrists and into our hands. Sometimes it's nice to get a little movement, maybe a stretch through the hands, taking the fingers wide away from the thumbs, and then letting go, finding some softness there into the hands. Letting go through the tops of the shoulders, so the very back of the shoulders, the upper back, can just relax down to the floor. We start to notice how it feels through the back of the neck. So we're trying to keep the back of the neck long, particularly important if we don't have a pillow. We don't want our chin sticking up high to the ceiling. So we're going to find that length down the back of the neck. And we allow our head to be heavy down to whatever's supporting that, be it a pillow or a cushion or the floor. And as we allow the head to be heavy, see if we can find a softness in the face, allowing the forehead to smooth out. Let go of any holding around the eyes, letting go of any holding into the lower jaw in particular, finding that space between the upper and lower teeth at the back of the mouth. Now, one thing I often encourage people to do is to keep your eyes closed throughout. It really helps us tune in to how we feel. This type of yoga is all about how we're actually feeling today. So often we go through life with pain. We don't really pay enough attention to it. Or sometimes we pay too much attention to some of the pain and not other parts of the body that are also deserving of attention. This is our opportunity to take that time to breathe in, to breathe out, and to let go. So if our legs are still straight, we're going to bend the legs so that the feet come flat to the floor and the knees are pointing up to the ceiling. And we might have been lying there in one position for quite a long time, so we're just going to bring your bum up away from the floor, only slightly, and then place it back down again. And maybe it feels a little bit more comfortable here. Maybe we can rock the hips from side to side, taking the knees to one direction. Bring them back up through the centre and taking them down in the other direction. Really allowing your body to roll and enjoy through the whole of that movement. If you've got a wall and it's kind of restricting you, then you can just change your position slightly. If you want to take the legs further down, you can, if you have the space. Taking it as slowly or as quickly as you want. It's quite nice to still find that connection to your breath. So often we can breathe out as we take the knees down to one side and breathe in as we bring them back up to the centre. Sometimes the breath doesn't work for us that way, and we can just change it. And breathe in as we take them down, breathing out as we bring them up. Just whatever works for us, just finding that connection. And we'll come back to the centre. Just going to check in with where our feet are. Straighten up if you want to. And we're going to bring our right knee into the chest. Let's hold on to that leg. So for some of us, it's comfortable to bring the hands to the front of the right knee or shin. Some of us prefer to have the hands at the back of the leg. If we don't want to hold on, then we just keep the arms down by the side. Maybe it's not that comfortable for us. Wherever we are, we're just going to think about letting go through the front of that thigh as we breathe out. Feeling that stretch across the front of the knee. Maybe you're aware of those hip flexors, the muscles in the crease, if you remember, at the very front of the top of the leg. Or maybe we can allow our muscles to find that softness as we continue to hold. Our breath nice and slow. Not taking it to a point where it hurts. So we're very mindful of staying within our full range of movement as much as possible without taking it beyond it. The stretch is always a reaction rather than an action. So often people try too hard with their stretches. It's meant to be enjoyable. The challenge with this type of yoga is to find that stillness. Not just stillness in the body, but stillness in the mind as well. And then from here, let's take our foot up to the ceiling. We're going to straighten it out a bit. So it doesn't have to be super straight. It's just straighter than it was. For me, it's not that comfortable to be really straight. And I prefer to hold on. But for you, you might prefer to have the hands down by the side. And whilst you can't see my foot, or if I bring it lower, you can. But in this position, we're going to just move our foot around. So we might flex and point it. We might move it from side to side. We might take little circles. If we are going to circle it, we want to go both directions. It just helps us find that connection with how it feels through the back of the leg. And then we can find that stillness in the foot. We're going to see if we can let go through the left leg, the one that's still bent with the foot to the floor. Now, if you find that you've brought up a different leg to me, maybe you brought your left leg up, then that's fine. You work with that leg. This is your first leg. And then we're going to bend the leg, the knee back into the chest again. And maybe we can feel like we want to bring it in a bit closer. Often happens. Again, thinking about allowing the muscles to be relaxed. Just by breathing in, we can create a bit more space, maybe, or awareness of space. Breathing out, we can encourage that softness. Encouraging our body to let go of wherever we feel that tension. So for some of that might be us, it might be through the front of the leg. Some of us, it may be through the back of the leg. The focus always is on keeping the breath regular, nice and easy. As full a breath in and out is comfortable for us. And then we're going to cross this right leg over the left. The ankle's going to be close to the left knee and the right knee is going to be wide. So we've got like a triangular space between the two legs. Or we can encourage that right thigh away from us. Maybe pushing into the inside of that thigh slightly. And for some of us, this feels good. You know, we can feel the stretch here. For others, you may not feel anything in particular. If this is for you, then you may wish to take the left foot off the floor. Just intensifies the feeling of stretch into the thigh, the right thigh, into the right hip. Maybe you take the right arm through between the legs and hold on to the back of the left leg, if it's off the floor. Otherwise, we can keep it on the floor. An alternative is to have the left foot slightly raised and place it on a pillow or a cushion or a block if you have a yoga block. I've got a little Thai cushion that I use for Thai massage. We're thinking about enjoying the feeling of stretch in this right leg and this right hip. And then if you do have the left foot off the floor, you're going to bring it down to the floor. And we're going to keep our legs in this crossed position. And then we're going to take that right foot down towards the floor, keeping the legs crossed. So the idea is we come to a bit of a twist here through the lower back. And the right knee is kind of aiming towards the ceiling, the direction of that. If we want to place the right foot on the inside of that left knee, it's quite comfortable often. It also encourages the left leg to drop heavy down to the floor. We're going to think about letting go through the back of the shoulders. So it's just a small twist in the very lower part of the back. Still some stretching through the legs. And maybe we're aware of it in our left side. Maybe through the front of those left hip bones. Maybe we notice that we're holding on in the left leg. So we're going to use our breath to see if we can let go. If our eyes are open, we're going to close them and really going to tune in to how we feel in this position. Remembering, as we continue to hold these stretches, we focus on releasing with our out breath. And if something feels uncomfortable, then we can just adjust. We can place our hand underneath the outside of that left leg or left hip. If it doesn't want to come all the way to the floor. We can bring that right foot to the floor completely, if that's for us. It's not so comfortable for me, so I prefer to keep it rested on the inside of the knee. So with these positions, it's always about finding a position that works for us. A position where we can think about not only the part of the body that's stretching, but the other parts of the body that might be compensating. Through the arms, through the shoulders, through the neck. The head can be facing straight up, looking up to the ceiling if your eyes were open. Or you may prefer to turn it to the right, or maybe through to the left. think about letting go. And then very slowly we're going to start to bring the legs back up to where they were. Adjusting, bringing that right ankle back over the knee. And then we're going to take this right leg further over the left. So the legs are crossed, like we would be sitting if we were sitting in a chair probably. The knees close together. And again, we can keep this left foot on the floor, or we can come to tiptoes, or we can bring the foot off altogether. And if you didn't bring the foot off before, you might actually find it possible to do it in this position. But we're really going to focus on how it feels through this right leg, right into those glute muscles, into the outside of this right hip. So it's important what we're feeling on the right side, not so much on the left side. We might take this right foot further over to the left. We might hold round the front of the knees and bring the legs in closer. We might take both feet in opposite direction. Always feels a bit weird because the right foot is going over to the left and the left foot's going over to the right. Some of us, it's very comfortable to hold on to the feet. Others, not so much. It doesn't really matter. We just take it to where we feel it. This is all about how it feels, not what it looks like. Breathing in, breathing out. And then if we have got hold of our feet, our ankles, our shins, our knees, we're going to let go. We're going to bring the left foot down to the floor. And then we'll bring this right knee back into the chest, take the foot up to the ceiling, stretching out the back of the left leg, maybe taking a little bit of movement in that foot again. And then we'll bend the leg and bring the foot all the way down to the floor. Have a little rock through the hips. And then find a comfortable position for ourselves. Maybe you want to lift your bum up and place it back down again. If it feels like it's not quite in a happy position there. Check in with how it feels through the hands, the arms, the back of the neck. We can keep the legs bent or we can straighten them out along the floor. Whichever position they're in, we're going to just take time to notice how it feels through that right leg. And if it feels different at all to the left leg. If it feels different, try to notice in what way it feels different. The breath nice and slow. Full breaths in and out. Notice its position on the floor wherever you have it and compare it to your left side. And then we'll bend our legs again, bringing the feet flat to the floor. We'll rock through the hips, taking the knees down in one direction, bringing them back up through the center, taking them down in the other direction. And then we'll keep the knees straight up. We'll bring the left knee into the chest. And we can hold on. If you remember, that's how we started with the right side. We hold in a position That's comfortable for us. So maybe we hold on, maybe we don't. Maybe the arms stay by your side. Maybe we hold around the back of the leg. Maybe that's more comfortable for us. Just noticing how it feels through the arms. So if we're really straining to hold on, we don't need to do that. We can be nice and relaxed. Just noticing what our preference is. Thinking about giving ourselves time to find that softness through the front of the leg. Notice how it feels across the front of the knee. How it feels all the way up to the hip crease. Our hip flexors on the left side. And checking in how it feels front of the leg compared to the back of the leg. And then let's take this left foot up to the ceiling. So we're staking this leg a bit straighter than it was before. We can take some movement in the leg, in the foot, at the ankle. So the foot can move around in circles, or it can move from side to side, forwards and back. As we move it, we'll want to see how it feels through the muscles in the back of the leg as we move it around. Remember, we can hold on if it's comfortable for us or not. The leg can be straight, straight up. Can't really demonstrate that myself. I don't have that level of flexibility in my hamstrings. Or we can have it more bent. For me, I prefer to hold on. It just allows me to find that softness in this position in a way that's more challenging if I don't. And then we'll bend the leg again, bringing the knee back into the chest. Maybe we bring it in a bit closer. Maybe those muscles are ready to let go a little more easily. And whenever we can, we really think about our breath, allowing ourselves to find that softness. Notice how it feels through the front of the thigh, across the front of the knee. Notice how it feels into the back of the leg, into those glute muscles, maybe around the outside of the hip. And then we're going to let go. We're going to cross this left leg over the right. So our left ankle is close to the right knee. There's a big triangular space between the two legs. I'll just change position so you can see if you are looking. And we can encourage that left knee to just move away with our hand to maybe increase the stretch. And we can bring the toes in closer if we wish. Or we can take the foot off the floor altogether. So just coming to a position that works for us. And quite often it's different on the second side to how it felt on the first side. So maybe it's comfortable to hold on if you have got the foot off the floor. Maybe you prefer to hold around the back of the thigh, maybe around the front of the knee. Maybe you prefer to keep that right foot on the floor, just moving that left thigh away to feel the stretch for you. Breathing in, breathing out. And then if that foot is off the floor, we're going to bring it back down to the floor. And we're going to take that left foot down to the floor as we take both legs over to the right. So our left knee is pointed up to the ceiling. And this might be quite different on this side. So on the previous side, I preferred to have my foot on the inside of this right knee. Actually, on this side, I prefer to twist on this side. So I'm more than happy for my foot to come down to the floor. If we want to support under the outside of that right leg, so the foot doesn't come down as far, then that could be good for us. So we're all different. So what feels like a great stretch for someone might feel more than challenging for another. So it's not about getting to a destination, as it were. It's just about how it feels, how the process of taking our body into these stretches feel. Remembering we're never pushing ourselves to a position where it hurts. We want to feel it. It's a sensation. But we need to be able to let go as we breathe out, as we hold these positions. Thinking about letting go through the back of the shoulders as well, so it's not just about what's going on in the legs. With the head, it may be facing up to the ceiling, or it may be turned to face away from the legs, from the knees. Encouraging ourselves to let go as we breathe out. So finding that space with our breath in. Finding that way to soften and to let go as we breathe out. And then from here we're going to slowly bring the legs back up to the centre, adjusting our shoulders maybe, or our lower back if we feel we need to straighten up. And we're going to cross this left leg further over the right. So again, this might be different to what we did on the other side, but if it's for us, we can bring the right tiptoes to the floor, bringing the foot in closer, or we can bring it off the floor altogether. We can hold on either through to the front of that right knee. And we're looking at feeling the stretch somewhere in that left leg. So maybe we want to take that left foot further over to the right to notice how it feels through the outside of this left leg, up into the outside of the hip, up into the glutes, those muscles in the bum. Maybe we take the right leg further over to the left. So both feet are going in opposite directions, but only if that feels appropriate for us. We've got to be able to hold these stretches, and more importantly, we've got to be able to stay with them and find that softness. So if we push it too far too soon, we can't let go fully. And then we're always fighting it. And what we want to do is invite some softness, invite a way to let go. Thinking about relaxed as much as possible through the shoulders, especially if we've got the hands up and holding on to something. And then we will let go of whatever we've got hold of. We're going to bring this right foot down to the floor. Bring the left leg back over to its side. Let's stretch out the leg. Give a little movement into that foot. And then we can allow that left leg to come back down to the floor. A little wriggle through the hips or rock through the hips. We'll straighten the legs out along the floor, if that's comfortable for us. Otherwise you can keep the legs bent. And we're going to notice how the legs feel now. Notice how that left leg feels. That feels compared to the right leg. How easy or otherwise it is for us to let go through the hips, through the back of the legs, through the back of the calves and all the way down to the feet. And maybe we're comfortable in this position. If we are, we're going to stay here. If we're not so comfortable, then we can find a different place or a position to lie in. This is our final resting position. So for some of us, it's very comfortable to lie like this now. Others prefer to keep the legs bent. If you're the sort of person that likes to take the knees out to the side, having the feet, or the soles of the feet touching each other, then you can do that. If you prefer to keep the feet wide and the knees dropped in, you can do that. Wherever you are, we're going to find some stillness. We'll check in with how we feel. Just a few moves we've done this evening. Maybe our body feels different now to how it felt at the beginning. Noticing how it feels through the feet. Through the soles of the feet, up through the tops of the feet, the front of the ankles. How it feels through the back of the ankles and up through those calf muscles. How it feels through the outside of the shins and into the knees. The back of the thighs. And through the front of the thighs. Allowing the bum to be heavy, to let go. See if we can allow the muscles around the hips, around the sides, through the belly, through the stomach, through the back, through the lower back, to fully let go. And notice how it feels through the back of the rib cage. The back of the shoulders down, through the upper arms, through the forearms into the wrists and the hands, the fingers and thumbs. Notice how it feels through the upper back. Allowing the back of the head to be heavy, allowing it to drop heavy down into the floor. Allowing our neck muscles to find that softness. The neck doesn't have to support our head in this position. They can let go of all that hard work. Thinking about finding the breath, noticing how it feels, finding that softness through the face, around the eyes, around the mouth. Finding that space in the mouth, allowing the tongue to float in the mouth. So being aware of its position. Neither push too high up or too far forwards. Being aware of the breath, maybe hearing the sound of your own breath now. As we find that quietness. Maybe aware of how easy the breath is as you breathe in, as you breathe out. The body as relaxed as it can be. Inviting that softness into the whole of your body. Allowing yourself to let go of the tension. And just focusing on your breath nice and easy now. Easy in, easy out. And as you stay in that position, really noticing how you feel. setting yourself up for a good night's sleep. So it's time to find a little movement in your body. You can start to take some movement through the fingers and thumbs, into the toes, rotation through the wrists and to the hands, up through the arms, and maybe give yourself a big stretch wherever you are. Bending your legs. Give a little rock through the hips. And you're going to slowly make your way up to a seated position. Or you can carry on lying there. The time is your own. I'm going to wish you a very good night. And I see you next week.